Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Newspaper Article Lucky Dip. Again, there's no trigger warnings. I am as much in the dark as you are as to what we're going to get out of the hat today. So if you're particularly sensitive to anything, check the description below to ensure that this episode doesn't have anything that's going to trigger you at all, So we'll see what the hat does have for us. Oh, we've got a few all bundled together. Where did this one go? Okay. So, the newspaper titles and dates don't give anything away to me. We have the Yorkshire Gazette for the 21st of February 1824 to begin us. Let's see what the Yorkshire Gazette has. So we're beginning here with mysterious circumstance, supposed murder, dead body found, followed by 3 exclamation marks. A few days since, as some men were widening the road at Yalton Warbler near Brixham, they discovered the skeleton of a man buried near the lodge. The head had been severed from the body and placed between the legs, and the shoulders were only 3 inches below the surface of the earth. Every inquiry has been made in the neighbourhood, but without effect, nor can any trace be discovered who the individual might be. 'Tis generally supposed the man was murdered, from the circumstance of the head being cut off and placed between the legs, and that the body was concealed in the above place by assassins to prevent detection. A farmer who lived near Paynton was suddenly missed about 30 years ago and has never since been heard of, but the opinion of several persons who have seen the body is that it cannot be him, as, from appearances, it must have been interred at a more recent date. The greatest consternation prevails in the neighbourhood in consequence. Yes, that would definitely be of concern. And they're saying that there's something about the burial that shows it's been interred fairly recent to this article. But I know that throughout Europe you had the idea that vampires existed. And I think in those cases sometimes the head would be cut off, a suspected vampire. So not initially, it wasn't always prior to being buried in the first place. So a deceased person would be buried, and then there would be maybe strange happenings, maybe the family was afflicted in some way, and it was determined, in some cases, that the recently deceased person was to blame, that they were a vampire in death. So the body would be dug up, the head would be taken off and placed between the legs, or maybe a stone slab would be put in the mouth, or they would be staked or pinned into the coffin in some way. And that's what that reminds me of. I can't imagine that just a straight up murderer is going to go to any length or ceremony in disposing of a dead body. So if they were going to bury someone they had recently killed and decapitated, it seems like they wouldn't be so cautious as to place the head between the legs. They would just put it wherever, wouldn't they? It seems like that burial has been set up in some way, that there's a purpose to having put the head between the legs somehow. And that's what makes me correlate it to the vampire burials that have been found throughout Europe. But if it was fairly recent, I don't know, were people still doing that to supposed vampires in 1824? As late as the 19th century? I actually don't know the answer to that one. I'll maybe need to find out just to get a wee bit more insight, because that's a very curious article to start with. We'll see what we have next from the hat. For this one, what have we got? My favourite paper, the Caledonian Mercury, for the 23rd of July 1724. This is an older article, 100 years before that last one. Let's see what the Caledonian Mercury has for us. So this was actually an article that made it into our gender fluidity episode for Independence Live. We have Edinburgh, July 23rd. We hear that a certain woman who has passed for a Grenadier these 14 years bypassed and done duty as such was on Sunday last, to the incredible surprise of the whole regiment, brought to bed after 2 hours hard travail in the Canongate. This surprising event has since been very good pastime over the bottle, some being in a difficulty how this Amazon should come under Kirk's censure, others again who should be father of the child, which last doubt, we hear, was thus resolved by a virtuoso of the battalion, viz. I think it not very wonderable if he, being a Grenadier, got herself with child. Lack of biological, physiological education there with that man, I think. But yeah, a woman was a Grenadier for 14 years, apparently in one of the British regiments, and no one had any idea that she was a woman until she gave birth, really. So I'm surprised that she managed to go the period of being pregnant without being found out. That it was literally on being brought to bed, on giving birth, that people found out. So I wonder if she maybe scored herself some time away from the regiment in order to hide her obvious pregnancy, or maybe played it off in some other manner. But well done to that woman. She obviously did a good job of passing for a male for over a decade. Good on her. Now we'll see if we've got another one. What's this? We have the North British Daily Mail for the 11th of March 1852. Let's see what the Daily Mail has. So this one doesn't tell us much from the title. We have singular circumstance. A strange occurrence took place a few days ago to a servant girl of Taunton, in which was likely to prove of a serious nature. It appears that the girl, who for a considerable time had been labouring under a violent cold, naturally enough felt somewhat anxious to effect a cure. She accordingly got a tub of warm water in which she bathed her feet, though somewhat longer than she intended, for after a few minutes, feeling a little fatigued, she fell into a pleasant slumber, and did not wake again until next morning at 6 o'clock, when, to her great surprise, she found that her feet and legs had remained in the water for at least 7 or 8 hours, and also that she had not the slightest command over them. The poor girl has since been obliged to undergo medical treatment to recover the use of her locomotives. What? How can having your feet in a tub of warm water stop her from being able to use her feet and legs? I mean, there have been people lost out at sea in freezing cold water for more than a day and a night, and have been rescued and have been able to walk. So it's not the fact she had them underwater for 7 or 8 hours. Might leave you a bit wrinkly. I can only assume she was sat in some kind of way where she's ended up cutting off the circulation to her legs and feet. Because otherwise that article doesn't make much sense. And I'm not sure what medical treatment would be necessary to resume the use of her legs. I wonder when physiotherapy became a thing, because I'm thinking it wasn't in 1852. That's a curious one. Yeah, strange. I have another one. So we'll make this our last, and we have the Elgin Courant and Morayshire Advertiser for the 29th of October, 1858. Do we think we're about to get a Halloween article? I like Halloween articles. Let's see what we have. Okay, so this one is a rather short article entitled Extraordinary Phenomenon. Mr. Hancock of Clapthorne has now in his possession 2 eggs laid by one of his hens, the shells of which bear the following extraordinary passages in raised letters from the shells. Be ye always ready, and prepare to meet thy God. How to account for so strange an occurrence, says our correspondent. The wisdom of the neighbourhood cannot divine. Cannot they be enlightened on the alleged mystery? Really? Now, this one I have not heard of in the annals of wondrous godly phenomenons. How might you accomplish that in 1858? Wax, maybe? Maybe write it in wax and have it in that way raised from the shell of the eggs. Be nice if we had pictures, wouldn't it? Or even an artist's representation to get an idea of what the handwriting looked like. Was the handwriting the same on both? What happened to the hen that laid them? Did it become a saint of some sort? I wouldn't put it past these people if they're prepared to believe the eggs were laid with random religious mutterings on them in raised letters. I can't account for that one otherwise than by someday affecting it in wax or some other substance. I assume people didn't get the chance to get too close to the thing, because when these frauds are created, the creators don't enjoy people getting too up close and personal with them in order to be able to discern how the thing was done, I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure that hen went to heaven. I'm positive of it. So, on that note, thank you for joining me again, and we shall see you next time. Take care. Godly eggs. Aye, okay.